On this episode, Portland, Oregon has on-street bicycle parking corrals. The Smart Trips program uses individualized marketing to promote transportation alternatives. The Women on Bikes program encourages women to cycle more. Portland State University hosts the Initiative for Bicycle and Pedestrian Innovation. Finally, we look at Portland's Safer Routes to School program. Stay tuned. We're talking with Greg Raisman with the City of Portland, Office of Transportation. What's going on here on Belmont Street?
Well, John, this is what we call a bike corral or an on-street bike parking facility where we've actually converted some parking that was formerly used for on-street car parking into on-street bicycle parking. On this street, in this particular block, it's a location that has very high parking demand because we have a number of really great restaurants and a grocery store and some bars and other theaters and things like that are right here. And so a lot of people come here and it's very high parking demand. And prior to this project, we could fit 25 vehicles on this block. After this project, we can now fit 65 vehicles on this block. And what that's meant is a number of really great things, including more customers. Businesses are very happy. They're getting more business. A better pedestrian environment. By moving all these bicycles off this very narrow 8.5-foot wide sidewalk, we've created a lot of space for pedestrians, for people in wheelchairs, blind people have a much easier time getting to these shops. And businesses like it because it also means they have more space for tables and planters, and also their shops can be seen more easily, and there's a traffic safety benefit because instead of having like an SUV or something parked here that you can't see through, you can see through these bicycles and you can see through the facility itself. And so as you're getting ready to cross the street or leave the side street or whatever it is, the visibility clearance is also much better. So this on-street bike parking facility is in the heart of one of the highest parking demand places, and it's been really successful because of it.
So you don't go and hide it on the back side of something off some side street where it's not convenient to anything.
Yeah, I think with bike parking, you really want to look at three important factors: quality, quantity, and location. So you want something that's high quality, that's intuitive to use, that provides a good level of security, that it's not, that it's going to be something solid to lock to, and also something that's not going to damage your bike. You want enough bike parking to meet the demand. By really placing the bikes on the street, it's an empowering experience, but also it's a high quantity experience. I know when I ride my bike here, or anybody rides their bike here, there's going to be plenty of places to park. And then the third thing is location. You want it as practical and convenient to the locations people are going because they want to park near the door. They also want location that increases security. More eyes on your bikes mean that there's more people seeing them, less likely that stuff's going to get stolen. And also you want to promote cycling, and by putting it in a very high visibility location, it lets people know that this is a business district that supports our neighbors walking and biking to their stores.
What thinking and planning went into putting the first on-street bike parking into place?
Well, the first on-street bike parking actually happened in North Portland, and I was actually managing bike parking for the city at the time, and it was a spot, every time I'd go by, there'd just be piles of bikes, and so I put some bike racks in. A week later, I got a call wanting more bike racks. I put in as many bike racks as I could on sidewalks, and again, it was 8.5-foot sidewalks and tons of use, and so we basically said, gosh, the next step is, listen, if we're going to designate some space, let's say for truck loading zones, where we say this particular type of vehicle and this particular type of use can have this space reserved on our parking, why can't we do it for bikes? And so we began the effort of converting some what was just general automobile parking into another use, which is bicycle parking. We worked with the neighborhood association, we worked with some advocacy groups, and we spent a lot of time thinking about how do we deal with the design that's low enough cost so we can replicate it, that is functional, that can survive in a street environment. We're still working. I think that where our design is going to grow from here is to make it more attractive, maybe a little bit more permanent. So we also have to work with the local residents and businesses because our street sweepers cannot get into these. So we actually have a maintenance agreement. So these shops, when they come out and sweep their sidewalks, they're also sweeping this. And they're happy to do it because it's been such a positive benefit for them. And it turns out, if you were to look along the gutter here, the debris kind of ends where the bike parking begins. They stay very clean.
Are you getting a lot of requests for this type of bike parking around the city?
We can't keep up with the demand for this service. Right now, we only have about 6 of these in the city. However, we have 30 more identified that we think will be in within the next year and a half. It's just a program where I really can't go a week without hearing a new request from a business association or a local business or a neighborhood or a school that's looking for a service like this just because of how much value it adds. We can't keep up with demand right now for it. And one other little point, which is kind of interesting, when we put our first one in, we were surprised. We put it in, there's, whenever you do something new, there's always an interesting conversation beforehand. Well, after it went in, all the businesses 2 blocks away signed a petition unanimously asking for another one.
We're talking with Linda Ginenthal with the City of Portland. What is the Smart Trips program?
Well, it's a program that we've adopted in the City of Portland. It is a program that's all over Europe and in Australia. And what it is, it's an individualized marketing program where we go out to about 20,000 households a year and find out exactly the kind of information they're interested in getting. So we send them a newsletter to tell them we're coming, then we send them an order form. And they request the specific information that they're interested in. If they're not interested, that's fine. And if they're interested, they're able to pick and choose among a whole variety of information about bicycling, information about walking and the rules of the road for walking and the crosswalk laws. Also, they're able to order all kinds of bus information and the bus routes in their neighborhood, the ID stops for all of their bus stops, so they can actually call the bus and find out not just when it's scheduled to come, but actually when it's coming to their intersection. So this is all available to people through our Smart Trips program, where they can order this information. It gets delivered to their home by bicycle. We've got a bunch of strong and excited folks who bring their we have their bike trailers, and they shuttle it out to people's houses pretty quickly, and it's proven to be pretty successful. We've gotten, in addition to the number of people who actually order material, we get about 20% of the people who are in a neighborhood to request information for Smart Trips so that they can try out bicycling and walking and get more information on transit. But we also measure to make sure that it's really reducing the number of car trips. And what we found is that the program reduces car trips by 9%, anywhere from 9 to 13%, and not just with the participants. This is with the entire area. So we really see a decrease in driving. And I think one of the key factors of this is that people are looking for ways to not have to drive everywhere they go. And so if they have the information at their fingertips, delivered to their home, in an individualized package that they are requesting, they are more likely to do it, and they're more likely to really engage on this kind of a project. So that's in a nutshell what Smart Trips is all about. We also, in addition to the information we get out, we also pair that with some hands-on experiential activities. We do a series of bike rides, both a Women on Bikes program, obviously just for women, and that includes rides and clinics. We have a bicycle rides co-ed with classes, and then we also do Tento Express campaign, which is sponsored by Kaiser Permanente. The people can take walks in the neighborhood, wonderful tours, really discover the great things, and us senior strolls, where they're about a mile long, and getting seniors out of the neighborhoods. They all start and end at the same location, and they start and end at bus stops, so that seniors can get there without having to drive. So it's we pair up the information with the hands-on experience and really get people to change the way they get around.
So as long as you have some infrastructure there in place, you're saying all you need to do is let people know about it, and you can get as much as a 9% shift.
The key is you can only sell the products you have if you've got some places where it's safe to bike, or generally safe to bike, if you've got decent infrastructure for walking, if you've got a decent bus system. Really, that's what we're talking about, is getting the information out to people. It's not just enough you have to build. You have to have that infrastructure in place. But once it's in place, we see that this program really makes a significant difference. In fact, we did this program in conjunction with building a light rail along a corridor in North Portland. And we measured to see what kind of effect we would have. And because the light rail was really just replacing a bus line, the light rail itself really only shifted about 3% of the driving trips to non-driving trips, which was great. That's a really good change. On top of that, our program did a 9% decrease. So there was a total of 12% decrease in driving in the area because of our program and adding a transit corridor. And so that's a pretty good return. That's a pretty good investment for getting people out of their cars and getting them onto transit and on their bikes and walking.
We're talking with Janice McDonald, who's with Transportation Options with the City of Portland, Oregon. What is Transportation Options?
Transportation Options is a program where we encourage people to use all sorts of modes of transportation, such as walking, biking, transit, carpooling, instead of driving by themselves.
And you have something called Women on Bikes.
I do.
What's that?
That is a program that was started about 4 years ago after we did bike counts, and only 30% of the people that were riding bikes were women. So we tried to figure out why that was, and we asked, and we created the Women on Bikes program. And it's where we're encouraging women to get out and ride and make them feel safer on the roads.
What sort of concerns might women have that keep them from riding that all those males out there don't?
Yeah. They're actually pretty timid about the traffic. They, when they're driving, they're seeing how much traffic is around, and so they bike those same routes, and so they're a little nervous around traffic. We teach them to be very confident, and we teach them skills of like pedaling a bicycle, braking, how to fix a flat is another one that, what happens if this happens to me, like a flat tire. And then just being confident with riding on the road, and which routes to take is another big one. So they don't ride the routes that they actually drive.
So someone signs up for your Women on Bikes program, what's involved? How much of their time is it going to take? What's going to be happening?
Good question. The whole program's free, and we have classes that last 2 to 3 hours. We have a 3-hour maintenance clinic where we have them bring their bicycle and they clean it, learn what needs to be tightened, how to take care of it. They take the back tire off, which is the difficult one, and take the wheel off, the tire off, and learn how to change a flat tire. And we go over the maps and talk about routes. And then we also lead bike rides, because it's great to do all the classroom stuff, but then we really want to get them out on the road and get them confident with the traffic. So while we're riding, we stop, we answer questions, we talk about how to get through an intersection that might be a little difficult. We help them learn how to change gears while stopping and starting. And we just have a good time. It's a pretty social ride, and we look at houses and encourage them to ask questions from the other people that are riding.
What sort of changes have you seen? 4 years now. What's happening that might be a little different than 4 years ago when you first started?
Well, when we first started, the crowd was a lot younger. Just a lot of people that had been moving here that wanted to start riding and figure out Portland through those classes. Now my group is a lot older, so I see women in their late 40s, 50s, and a lot of women in their early 60s that have decided that this is what they want to do for health benefits, and they want to be more into the community, and they see that by bicycling they can do that. So it's been, like I said, a ton of fun. The women, they walk away with smiles on their faces at the maintenance clinics. You have 30 bicycles flipped upside down, and they're working in teams, and they're clapping and encouraging each other. And, you wouldn't see that in co-ed classes. It's a lot more, it's a safe environment for them to ask whatever questions they feel that they can as a woman.
So have you seen your percentage of women creep up at all yet, or is it still too early to say?
Well, we have seen it increase by a couple of percent, so we're like up to 33%, which doesn't, on the grand scheme, doesn't seem like a lot, but it actually is a lot. While I ride around town, I see a lot more women riding their bicycles, and that's what I've heard from my coworkers too, that the numbers are increasing. The percentages don't seem like it.
We're at Portland State University talking with Lynn Wygand. Who do you work for here?
I'm the director of the Initiative for Bicycle and Pedestrian Innovation here at Portland State.
And what is that?
Well, it's a brand new program. We were launched just about a year ago, and our focus is to integrate more fully bicycle and pedestrian travel into our community's transportation systems, and we're doing that through a combination of research, education, and information sharing.
What sort of research are you doing? What needs to be done?
Well, we're just starting to form our research agenda right now. So what we've been doing so far is doing some white papers, basically seeing what's out there in some critical topic areas so we can identify the gaps in knowledge and figure out where we want to go from here. So some of the things we've been looking at so far are how effective Safe Routes to School programs are and what research has been done to evaluate those programs. We've also done some research around the economic benefits, economic development benefits of bicycling to communities, as well as some work around safety about intersection design improvements specifically for bicyclists.
And then the next thing you mentioned was education. What are you able to do there?
Well, we've got a two-pronged approach. What we really want to do is generate a whole new generation of transportation planners and engineers, people who can plan with all modes in mind and make bicycle and pedestrian travel safer and more convenient. Now, we realize a lot of professionals went to school before these types of concepts were introduced, so the first thing we're doing is a series of professional development workshops to help existing practitioners, engineers, and planners learn more about state-of-the-art techniques for design and planning for bicyclists and pedestrians in their communities. At the same time, we're doing some curriculum development. We're beefing up our planning classes in bicycle and pedestrian planning and design, and we're working with the engineering programs both here and at Oregon State to integrate more bicycle and pedestrian components into the basic engineering courses.
Is it basically engineers and planners that have to be educated about these issues?
Well, there's a whole range of people that need to be educated, the general public, the advocates, the policymakers. However, because our programs here focus on planning and engineering, we've taken that as the first step. So we're trying to get those future professionals ready to go out and meet the challenge of designing a bicycle and pedestrian-friendly community and give them the tools and the data they need to help inform the policymakers, help educate the public, and help teach kids how to ride and bike safely.
And then the third area you mentioned?
We are trying to become a clearinghouse of information sharing, or what some people would call technology transfer. So there's a lot of good information that's out there in academic circles that the practitioners don't have easy access to. So we're trying to go out and find the best of that, first here within the state and nationally, condense that and make that available on our website. And we're also trying to link up with a lot of other national and regional websites so that we can all share information among each other.
And have you found, is there a lot of interest in this out there in terms of people seeking professional development courses and then trying to get that technology transfer going? What are you a voice in the wilderness, or people listening?
A lot of people are listening, especially professional development. We've done 4 workshops so far, everything from on and off street bikeways and ADA design to trail design, and a very specific workshop on engineering intersections for bicycle and pedestrian safety. All of those sold out. We capped those at 25 or 30 participants, and every one of them was fully subscribed. So we know there's a desire to learn more on the part of the professionals working out there, and how much of that's driven by their own need and how much of it's driven by the communities they work for or the clients they work for, I don't know, but we are definitely seeing an increased demand in that area. The courses that we offer on bicycle and pedestrian transportation for our graduate students are generally pretty full as well, 28 to 30 students, which is a pretty full class for a graduate program. And information sharing, it's hard to tell. Unfortunately, the PSU system right now isn't set up in a way that we can track all of our hits. So we really don't know exactly which areas of our website people are going to and how much they're using it. But we're hoping that by this time next year, we'll have a better handle on that.
What's the future? Where do you see the center going over the next 5 or even 10 years?
5-10 years. Well, I see us forming a pretty detailed research agenda that we would be able to conduct our own research, that we will partner with other institutions, public and private sector folks, to identify the key research needs and go out and find the funding to do that research. And then really the core of that is, again, getting that into people's hands that can use it, getting data for policymakers, getting best practices techniques into the designers and planners' hands, getting program evaluation out there for the advocates that are designing programs like Safe Routes to School so they can do a better job and be more effective. So we just see the future of expanding this program, expanding our audience beyond Portland, out to a regional and national audience, and really making bicycle and pedestrian travel a much more convenient, a more integrated form of travel as our communities continue to change and grow.
We're talking with Laura Wintergreen, who's the Safer Routes to School coordinator for the city of Portland, Oregon.
Hi, John.
So what does a Safer Routes to School coordinator do?
Safer Routes to School coordinator works with 25 schools in the city of Portland, and we provide basically a 5E program on the Marin model: education, encouragement, engineering, enforcement, and evaluation. We also created the program to deal with equity, and so it's equitably dispersed throughout the city of Portland. And we provide with education, pedestrian education. Right now we're going to be providing it to second graders in the 25 schools. We do a bicycle education program for fifth graders, and that's 10 sessions for fifth graders during classroom times. We have a child passenger safety education for kindergartner and first graders that is also followed up with fitting stations for the parents and coupons for reduced rate safety seats and booster seats. We're going to be moving into using individualized marketing. City of Portland was very successful with a marketing program called Smart Trips. And what we're going to do is sort of adjust that menu to the schools, whereby we're letting them select items such as walking maps, biking maps, if they want to know how the transit works, but also adding to that components like, would you be interested in having a walking school bus coming from your direction to the school? Would you be willing to volunteer on that? Would you be interested in having walk and bike Wednesdays? Would you like to have pollution punch card, environmental days for students? Would you like to organize a stop and walk so that cars aren't going all the way to the school but dropping their students off, say, 4 blocks before they get to school, thus avoiding the congestion around the schools? And so basically offering people who are interested the training that they need to do that, any of the sort of incentive things to encourage that, as well as follow-up advice on that. And then our ambassadors, who will be then directly delivering any of the things requested on that menu that's mailed to families, will make the connection with the volunteers, will orient them into whatever they're willing to participate in the schools, make the connection with adults, because what we learned is at an elementary school level, the children don't really get to decide whether they're going to be the ones walking or biking to school. We need to be working more actively with their parents in that decision making. So those ambassadors will also then be leading up to 5 special activities where they're bringing parents and students together to walk around their neighborhood, to get to know where their community centers are, where their parks are, where they are in relation to the school, what the safer routes are to that, as well as redoing mapping and providing family-friendly maps, which we've developed, to other schools that are not currently in the Safer Routes program.
Now, what are the lessons you've learned over the years you've been doing Safer Routes that have led you to revise it and improve it in different ways?
Well, one of the things we learned is that we weren't getting, if we didn't have the champion that reached out to us that brought us into the school, or if that champion graduated their child out of that school, which is what happens, students age, we found we weren't reaching the adults as well as we needed to be. And so where we had a school coordinator model, where that coordinator went in, initiated many of the programs, coordinated the education but didn't do the educational training themselves, coordinators were feeling like they weren't making the connection with the students, nor were they reaching as many parents as they needed to. And the instructors from the pedestrian and bicycle education felt like they were only seeing the students, but they weren't connecting with the rest of the school community and population. So we decided to bring those two positions together so that there's one contact at the school, and focusing more on bringing parents and students together walking and biking so that parents and students can identify more actively where there are problems and basically enjoy the benefits of walking and biking together, and thus develop a sense of safety and security in doing that. So that's a big issue for us in transitioning from our old model to the new model.
And you said benefits of walking together. What are the benefits of walking to school? Why are we bothering with all this?
Why do we do this? Well, when you look at 20 to 30% of traffic before and after school coming from parents taking students to school, when you look at that many of our schools were not constructed with the idea that everyone would be driving their SUVs to school. They really weren't constructed or placed in their neighborhoods that way, and yet we don't want to move schools to these super schools that are outside of our neighborhoods. The idea is, how do we continue to make our neighborhoods livable? And so environmentally, it's very positive. It's very positive in terms of safety and traffic safety and health for students. And a really big health benefit. Getting students walking and biking to school and scootering and skateboarding to school basically gets them physically active, and we know that there's a dearth of physical activity. Portland is just now reinitiating a physical education program in our school system. They haven't had funding. So getting students moving and being active is a very positive health benefit for their heart, for their minds, and for the attention when they get to school. It's been proven that it increases that. So.
Visit us on the internet at www.pedestrians.org.